Am I disturbing you like you do?
You said you're on TV.
Am I disturbing you like you do?
You said you're on TV.
Community continues to be community continues to be
Happy New Year.
Hello all. definitely have a couple of new faces. And we'll get into the self-introductions a little bit later. And we're still expecting, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more Bpac member and like 3 more staff. There's a lot to talk about tonight. Actually, it's better that way.
Gosh, I just noticed it's 1:20:21.
Right, 121:21. See, do you go by Matt or Matthew?
Matt.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Sure. I usually go by Matthew.
Perfect.
Okay, we're still waiting for our public works director and possibly our city engineer. I mean, it's
He's coming.
senior engineer.
Do you see me, Matthew?
No,
No?
I see a blank screen.
Oh, but you can hear me?
Yes.
Hmm.
I think the
Oh.
lower left corner there should be.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are.
There
There we
you
are. Okay.
Very good.
First, I signed into the other Zoom meeting.
You're just testing it. There's Todd. We're just waiting for Bart.
You know, I wonder if he's on the other Zoom meeting. I saw someone on there.
Bart and also possibly a member from the public,
Hmm.
Laura.
Oh, Laura Smith. Yeah.
My clock says 5:04.
5:04.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the computer clock.
mine says 5:13. It's always off.
What's- If it,
Fred will be signing on shortly, Matthew. I think he signed on to the other link.
I did too in the beginning.
So are we waiting,
Well, we're
Joanna?
short
Or
one
are you
BPAC member.
checking the other link, Joanna, to see if anybody's on it?
Yeah, there was somebody on it, but I think he signed off. Let me double check again.
By the way, this meeting is being recorded, I heard.
That's the new reality.
I'll tell you what, let's begin. This is the regular meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. First one of the year. And I've been taking roll call as we've been sitting here. So the next item on the agenda is introduction of new Bpac members. But what I'm thinking of doing is, since some of us may be strangers to each other, maybe we can just all introduce each other ourselves. So, oh, there's Laura. I'll just start. Matthew G, I'm the traffic engineer for City of Campbell. And anyone jump in?
I'm Todd Capurso. I'm the Public Works Director, so I know the existing BPAC members, and I was part of the interview team for the two new members. So welcome. Nice to see you again.
I'm
Carmen-
Amy Olay.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. I'm Amy Olay, city engineer.
Carmen Lina, been on the BPAC now 4 years, 5 years. And the VTA BPAC just starting this year.
I'm Joanna, and I am the executive admin in Public Works.
I'm David South George. I've been on the BPAC for a little over 2 years.
I'm Mark Nakamura. I am the new BPAC addition, or member.
I am Matt Schrader, also a new member of the BPAC.
Okay. Maybe very briefly, Matt and Mark, if you could expand a little on a little bit of your background.
Yeah, sure. Currently, I work for the City of Cupertino in their Safe Routes to School department, or program rather. I'm an avid cyclist. I've lived in Campbell my entire life, outside of going to school in Seattle, where I studied environmental studies at Seattle University. And I'm just excited to join the committee and share my ideas and thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. I work at Stanford University up in Redwood City, and I actually do a lot of bicycle commuting. Originally from to and back from Palo Alto, and now riding from Redwood City back. I usually carpool in the morning because it's a much longer commute. I'm also an avid cyclist, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this committee and to share any reviews or insights and feedback on any current or future initiatives.
All right. Well, welcome. Our next item is the approval of our meeting minutes from November. Before I ask somebody to make a motion, I noticed there were some action items that I'm not sure. Okay, there's our last BPAC member. But I'm not sure if we followed through on it. So my apologies as far as the two action items for around the table comments, but we'll follow through on those. Have the existing BPAC members had a chance to review the meeting minutes from November?
I looked at them and they looked okay. This is David, so I would move approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we're going to get into some of our ongoing projects. And here's real interesting part of the meeting where we get some feedback from BPAC members, and you get to hear what progress is being made on various projects. The first one is what we're calling the downtown pedestrian improvements. There are two components. One is a bike box being installed at Campbell Avenue and Railway Avenue. And let me share my screen. Hang on a second. Okay, let's try this. What do you see right now? You see Campbell Park?
Yep, yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to switch to another PDF. Now, do you see an aerial photo of Campbell Avenue?
No.
Okay, let me try.
I see some photos, but not aerial.
Let me stop sharing. Oops. Tell you what, okay, here it is. Now, do you see the Campbell Avenue and Railway?
Yes.
Great, finally. Okay, this is the intersection here of the Campbell Avenue Railway. We're proposing to install a green bike lane between Foot Avenue and Railway Avenue with the bike box here. So if someone is riding their bike on Campbell Avenue but wants to continue on Campbell Avenue instead of riding onto Civic Center Drive, they could do so. If the signal is red, they can move into the bike box and then continue here. And these symbols are arrows to kind of blaze a trail through the intersection. And then there's arrows in this direction as well, all the way to where the bike lanes currently end around Poplar Avenue to the east, near Campbell Park. And the status of this project is we had already advertised this project for construction and awarded the contract to a striping company. We're still working with them to get their traffic control plan. Once that is approved, then we can issue the notice to proceed. And as it turns out, it probably works out well that they've taken a little bit of time as far as providing us with the materials we need to issue the notice to proceed, because we need warmer weather to install the thermoplastic material. So the warmer it gets, the better the finished product will be. So that's the status. Is we're just on the cusp of issuing a notice to proceed. We just need the traffic control plan. Are there any questions about this project?
So as the traffic approaches the crosswalk there heading westbound on Campbell Avenue, I'm trying to see how the lane, yeah, I see the bicycling is sort of going on top of the other marking. So there's one lane that's a right turn lane. The right lane is marked right turn?
Yes.
Yes, and then the next lane, how is that marked?
It is, there are three kinds of movements you can make. You can turn right, as you can right now. You can go straight through, or you can turn left.
Okay. So so when the traffic's flowing, bicyclists coming along there and, like by the time they get to Foot Avenue, would presumably be able to move over into that lane 1 to be ready to go straight if that's what they were intending to do.
Right, you'd have to navigate your way across.
In
Yeah,
other
really-
words, it's fine about the box that if you show up there and and cars are all stopped, you could come along the bike path and then get over there in that box. But it's not when the traffic's going. You'd have to already be in that lane 1. You'd have to be out of the right turn lane before you got there in order to proceed straight. Otherwise, you don't know whether some cars passing you on your left would be turning right. So,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Barton, because I've come through there and I've done that exact same thing, knowing that I want to go straight through and the traffic's flowing. I probably actually got over maybe even before that intersection was at Foot Avenue.
Yes.
It really only works if the traffic is stopped, of course. These bikes. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad place for them because I think there's a lot of because the way the intersection is made, there's a lot of signal timing that goes on, and then when the train comes by, that somebody could use that bike box. So I really don't have a problem with it. In the times I've come through there, I probably wouldn't have used it because traffic is flowing.
Yeah, I guess so. The issue for me is the marking such that the bicyclists are going to realize that they're coming up to a thing where that right lane becomes right turn only. How far back can they see those the marks that indicate that?
I believe these are the only marking lane.
Yeah.
You know what we could do? We can explore, we can put those kind of markings on the upstream end, kind of like what we do with left turn lanes.
Uh-huh.
That allows others, before they enter into the lane, they know what they're getting into.
And is there a sign on the side of the road? Because sometimes those work also. Yeah, you're right. You sort of got to know what that intersection does. And I've seen signage too that you could put on the side.
Something like right lane, right turn only, or
Yeah.
Was it like a
one of those signs with a little diagram that shows right lane is right turn only.
A lane assignment sign.
A lane assignment sign.
Right.
Yeah.
We can explore that. We'd have to look at street level just to make sure that there's visibility and there's somewhere to place the signs, but those are good. That's good feedback. In terms of lane assignment, it approximates the existing condition. It's just the addition of the bike lane on the right. The lane assignments are
so yes, and in fact that I guess that was my thought was, that green bike lane over there is almost attracting the bicyclist over to it, which is not going to be appropriate for them necessarily if they're won't be appropriate for them if in fact they're planning to go straight. So they need to realize before they get there, or left. Yeah. Well, if they were going left, they would know that they need not to be in the right lane of the two lanes, I think. But yeah, I think that's fine. Just try to make sure that people can see what's happening.
I guess another way to look at it the green bike lane does provide you at least with access to the bike box in case there is a standing queue. You're right though, if
Right.
the traffic is moving, in order to continue to go straight through, you do have to change lanes. With or without
Right.
the bike lane, you still have to.
So you don't want to get into that right turn lane up there if you're planning to go straight. So you need to know with enough notice to negotiate that. I don't think I would ever get in the green bike lane. You don't know when you don't know when the traffic starts moving, right? I mean, generally speaking. Suppose cars are stopped there and you could go around them and get in front of them over there, but you don't know if it's going to still be that way by the time you get there.
I guess there's some trade-offs too, because with the green bike lane too, you can bypass, you have your own lane in case you want to continue on Civic Center Drive.
Yes. Yeah, it's good for that.
Yeah.
Well, although if you get there and traffic is flowing, you can be in that lane, and it's not like the green continues onto Civic Center Drive. I don't quite see the benefit, I guess, there for that little segment.
I guess in the fall, it falls back then to having access to the bike box in case there's a queue.
Was this one of the improvements that was in the plan that we'd seen a couple
Right.
years? So this was actually in there.
Right.
Yeah.
It was called the Transportation Improvement or
Yeah.
Campbell.
Yeah, and I'm seeming to remember having discussions about it then too. But it's just it's kind of a strange intersection. I mean, I guess if traffic was moving and you were in that green bike lane and you didn't really realize that's not the lane you really wanted to be in, I suppose if you stopped at the light and just waited for the light to change and then you could use the bike box, it's not the best way to do things, but it could happen.
Well, if there's sufficient, marking for somebody who knows, but before they get there, that for straight or left turn, they need to be in that left lane, then fine, they'll be in the left lane.
Wasn't there some recent legislation that in a situation, not exactly like this, but just a regular intersection at right angles, that the bikes be in the right turn lane and continue straight ahead, that is perfectly legit?
Well, but there's only one. See, both of those lanes can turn right.
Yes, that's correct, Barton.
So
Yeah.
you can't proceed straight from that
Yeah.
right turn only lane.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So is that really sort of the key driver for the need for this project? Is that why we need to provide that opportunity for people to get in front of the cars? I guess, it makes me wonder then if, let alone where the cars are stopped at the light,
There was
if they're just coming along and the light is green, how are they expected and protected to be moving if they're going straight? And is that, clear enough in terms of markings and so on?
I'm thinking if there's enough room to provide the upstream arrows in the two lanes, that might provide better warning and including the lane assignment sign that we were discussing. I recall when we were gathering feedback for that, what we call the tipsy study, where we had different groupings of the public. The feedback was, well, that was for pedestrians, but also for bicyclists, I suppose. It's awkward to be able to continue westbound on Campbell Avenue and stay on Campbell Avenue west of Railway. For pedestrians, for sure, it's awkward, but also for bicyclists.
Yeah, well, the pedestrians, you have to walk around the corner across the tracks and use the crosswalk that's farther over there.
Right. And that's not being addressed in this project.
Yeah, doesn't seem to be a problem, really. I don't think. I mean, it's pretty clear. If you're walking on that north side of Campbell Avenue on the sidewalk, by the time you get to the corner, I think it's pretty clear how to get over there.
Okay, well, let's say it may not be a perfect solution, but at least it provides some means of bypassing a standing queue of traffic on westbound Campbell Avenue in case the bicyclists wanted to continue on Campbell Avenue.
Yeah, and I can see how striping it with that high vis would make it a little deceiving if you weren't aware of the situation before coming to the intersection. But that bike lane there, even if it is a real small stretch, is really important because pre-COVID, I would bike this every day as a part of my commute. And during rush hour, that traffic would back up and back up and back up. And then trying to like navigate that little stretch as cars are kind of close to the curb was incredibly dicey. So just to have that 5 feet of a striped bike lane there is really important, more so than I think allowing for that bike box so that people can kind of queue themselves in there and continue straight. But just having that 5 foot buffer of a bike lane there is really important from what I observed, at least.
Well, it's great to have your experience from, using that on a regular basis, Matt.
Yeah. Because once things kind of return to a normal environment, right, I don't imagine that changing very much. So that little stretch there was dicey, just as much as the stretch that doesn't have a bike lane right in front of the Campbell Park, just above, like 200 yards up. So yeah, that little area from Cupertino to my house over near the prune yard, those two sections were the two sections I was most concerned about in terms of trying to like be aware of what's going on.
I'll tell you what, this is all very good feedback. I kind of want to move on because there's some projects that you haven't seen yet, or we have more updates. So let me unshare this and move on to another screen. And this will be for the Campbell Park. Aha. Campbell Park bicycle pathway. Okay, do you see if this is Campbell Avenue in front of Campbell Park, and this is Gilman Avenue at the top of the sheet, do you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna zoom in I show a little bit more. Okay. What we have planned here is at the top of closer to Campbell Avenue, there's a path that will be built by our maintenance staff, actually, that will be bike only, that will bypass this playground area. There will be a separate path for pedestrians to get to this area. And we're looking for some feedback. What we want to do is to communicate to travelers that this is for bikes and this path is for pedestrians. We were thinking of, at a minimum, having something on the pavement, some kind of marking to show the difference. Pedestrians here versus bikes here. And then in between, we might have maybe arrows pointing in each direction to make it clear that this is not like a unidirectional path. You could encounter somebody in the opposite direction. I believe it's 8 feet wide. It's going to be.
It's 8 feet wide.
Okay.
So can I add then where Matthew pointed in the center, we're thinking, yeah, it would be double, set of arrows indicating both directions, but also both axis points, it would be for both directions as well, because I think the way it's shown, it could be misleading, right? But there you see in the red box, it does say with double arrows. I just wanted to point that out.
What about a center line stripe? Because inevitably somebody's going to walk there. And if you have a stripe, it might keep them to one side or the other, might, like we have on the Los Gatos Creek Trail. I know I don't really like the looks of that in this little park setting, but if we're trying to give the bicycles kind of a place where we really want them to go, just a thought.
Well, and it reinforces that it's a two-way path.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Which, I was concerned until Amy explained that you would have both directions arrows at the ends of this new path as well as in the middle, because that's where the confusion might come up, is that when somebody enters, not when they're in the middle of it, or it's a little late if they've gone the other way because they thought it was a loop.
So maybe a dashed yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it works for cyclists too, reminding them that, again, it's not just that they enter, but that they stay on one side because somebody might be coming at them, or at least keep their eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
I mean, I think I'd try it with striping, and if that didn't seem to work and you got people saying, oh, I'm always getting conflicts, you could always put a two-way sign up, or, a bikes only sign or something. I think we wouldn't maybe want to jump to the signage just to try and keep it as clean as possible and as few poles out there. But
yeah, this is Barton. So right at the upper right hand, that's where the two paths diverge. I think it might be appropriate to have a sign. In Saratoga, they have some little small signs that show, bicyclists this side, pedestrians that side.
Oh yeah, yep.
In a number of places, it's not that big a sign, and it's not high up like signs for cars are. It's down at the level of, eye level of pedestrians and bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
Right there where there's shows a little circle. If you had a sign there, at least on that end of it, it would.
I
Makes
actually
the
think that is
situation really
part of
obvious.
the plan. It's just not shown here, but that sign is to
Ah.
indicate you go to the right, it's for pedestrians, to the left, and the bicyclists, for bicycles.
Yeah.
Hey, Bart,
Yeah.
whereabouts in Saratoga are you describing?
Okay, so there are there's one on southbound Saratoga Sunnyvale Road. Oh, I don't know, not too far from where the high school is. There, I can go take a picture for you. Basically, there's a sidewalk. There's a at an intersection, and then there is a bike lane there, but there's also a sidewalk, and so they have and the sidewalk sort of goes up above street level, and so they have a little sign, like I said, and it just has picture, bicycle left, pedestrian on the right, and similarly, just east of where that Saratoga State Historical Sign arch is, right at the intersection of Saratoga Avenue and where Highway 9 comes there. There's another one. There's another of those. So just as you head east, you go through the intersection where the fire station is, and you're heading east. I guess at the next little street that comes into the side there's another one of the signs that says bicycles, pedestrians. I'll take a picture.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, are there any comments about the pedestrian side?
Is that the existing path, basically?
Could someone from engineering chime in on whether that's the existing path?
It's sort of in that area, but we're actually pushing out the playground a little bit more towards the lawn area. So it's getting widened a bit.
Mm.
And so you see where the picnic tables are. So that's where the existing. So if you look, yeah. So in general, the pedestrian path is where it is, except that the playground is pushing out towards it a bit more.
So what would be in between the two paths?
Right there, we have trees and picnic tables.
Okay, those
Is
are
there-
new trees or and new tables or?
Existing.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is there also a fence there, it kind of looks like?
Yeah, there is, with gaps in between.
Yeah. With gaps in between. Ooh, I'm
Is
a
that-
little,
Okay.
I'm a little concerned with that. If there are kids running around in there and then jetting out onto the bike thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me bring that up. The reason why there are gaps there is because there is another set of swings. Matthew, do you think you can scroll a little bit by the volleyball area on the south, right? So there's another set of swings, and so if you have, say a family that has kids wanting to kind of play in two different areas, there's still a little opening for them to get through. I agree though, because I'm not too comfortable with that opening either.
I don't think that's good, because if you're putting bicycles on that path only, that gives, the bicycles are going to go too fast, first off, okay? They have their own little path. That's a slight downhill too, isn't it? I think, slight downhill. And to have people just stepping out, I mean, the problem is they're not going to be focused on what's coming both ways, I really think it's a bad idea to have gaps there. I understand people are going to want to be over, but they need to be over there, not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
really,
agree too. I'm thinking of little kids. You could have little,
Yeah.
3 or 4-year-olds who can't even see over the fence, and they run out and they're kind of hidden. They run over to the grass.
Yeah, and I got to I mean, I see him on the creek trail, the electric bikes, they go too fast. And I just see that this, I mean, I think it's asking for a problem.
Okay, let us look
Yeah.
into that. Yep, okay.
Hmm.
The other question I have is at the intersection where so a bicyclist is going north, he's going to take that path. Is the idea that the bicyclist is to use the handicap ramp to get off there? Is that the intention? Yeah.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that the access that bicyclists currently use to get into the park?
Well, what I've done in the past is I've actually gone down Gilman Street and gone through the parking lot. Yeah. Rather than deal with the situation here with, the pedestrians in the play area.
Yeah, if I may, there's some photos of the existing condition, and that might, for
Oh,
those that
yeah.
may not be as familiar, kind of get oriented. You can see on the very right here, the top right picture is standing at the corner looking down toward the play area, and that's the existing path. And you see that path is definitely wider right now than 4 or 5 feet. I can't remember. I think maybe 6, maybe 8 feet wide right now. I can't remember exactly. But like Amy said, the point here that we're trying to do here is taking, and the problem with this path is, of course, it runs along the existing playground, right at the edge of it, right along it. So if you pan down a little bit, please. So you can kind of see where the existing trees and existing picnic tables, and then the other side is the path and the playground. Scroll down one more picture, please. This may be a little bit better. So here's the situation.
Yeah.
Exactly like you guys are saying. Right now, there's a potential conflict with kids just running back and forth, even just to the picnic tables, and that's why we want to take this opportunity to separate the pedestrian and the bicycles, however we can do it. Your point about, and of course but your point about, eventually the new path also presents some challenge too, because people still need to cross a new bike path. But that's kind of really the background of why we wanted to have this separate path out there, because right now there's a good potential for collision out there right now, conflict out there right now. So so anyway, that's a little bit more background, hopefully, to add to your thoughts and your consideration.
Will there be another opportunity? When would the design be ready?
We're looking at the yards crew is looking at, again, this is the path itself is going to regular asphalt concrete path. So, trying to get away from this unpredictable weather that we have, 70 degrees last week and, dropping back down to 50 next week. Probably sometime in March or April where the weather stabilizes itself a little bit. So we are looking to try to formalize and finalize this design probably within a month or so that we can get ready and schedule the crew and so forth. The other thing too is a little bit of a interesting tidbit is there's a sliver of county land that we're actually borrowing right now as part of the park. So this new bike path kind of cuts through, and even now it kind of cuts through the little county. So we do have to go to the county to make sure they're okay with whatever we do too. They've seen it. They know that we're building this bike path, and so it's a matter of just working with them.
So how soon would the other improvements go in after this bike path is in?
So right. So
and what's the plan for the interim?
Yeah. So the sequence will be the new bike path we go in first. So you have a dual path out there for a little while, and then we anticipate the playground construction to start sometime late July or August timeframe. And so we won't. And so when we when the playground construction starts, the old path, including the picnic table area, will then be fenced off completely during the construction.
So, but,
So that
so
there
then,
won't be.
so then during construction, you're probably going to allow pedestrians on that path.
No,
Because-
I think we will be on you mean the existing path or the new
No, on the
path?
bike, on the new bike path, when it's the only path, it's probably going to have pedestrians on it.
Yes, during
So-
construction, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
So unfortunately, that there has to be a transition period.
Oh.
If I could, if I could just chime in a little bit on that, Carmen. I mean, we're always going to allow pedestrians on that path. That will not be an exclusive bicycle path.
I thought, well,
It's a bypass for people who are not using the play lot. The intent here is to separate play lot users from park users.
oh, okay, well, that's maybe where I was not understanding. I thought Matthew said it was bikes only.
I don't believe it is bikes only. So if you're a walker or a jogger and you want to access the creek trail, you would be advised to use that new pathway and not go through because the old pathway will basically be modified into something that really serves the play lot users. Now a biker or a pedestrian or a jogger could use that one because they're walking or jogging, but we would not prohibit them on the bypass trail. Just much like on the creek trail, it will be a multi-use pathway.
Okay, that's not what I understood. I guess.
Let me, yeah,
Yeah.
misunderstanding as well. I'd like to hear
Me
from
too.
the engineering staff.
Yeah, that I think that's sort of the assumption, when we move forward with this design is that we would be separating both. Which is why we're trying to assign the bike path to be exclusively for bicyclists.
But that's not even consistent with the creek trail, right? I think we're going to have a hard time enforcing that. Is my point.
And then and maybe to that point, and once the whoever's on the new path enters back into the southern turn, where it joins the existing path, it's all going to be mixed use anyways.
So it's really a bypass.
It's a bypass.
It's a bypass for bicycles and pedestrians that don't want to be in where you probably have a bunch of kids and families and other activities. It's really a bypass.
Which makes a lot more sense to me too, because I looked at that and thought that's a lot of green space that you're taking away. So what's the trade-off? So I guess you create you kind of grow the size of the play area by allowing people to bypass that rather than kind of take that park space away by adding something that would be exclusive for bicyclists, which a lot of people wouldn't be happy about if you're taking this great green space away and you're only giving people who bike access to it. So if the playground grows in size, then that makes a lot more sense to me, and having it multi-use.
And so then maybe the pathway that is closest to the play area, I mean, you're going to have little kids on bicycles in there, probably with pedestrians just because of the play area, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that we anticipate.
Yeah.
Strollers, bikes.
Yeah, strollers. Yeah.
So this is
All
really
bikes.
more of just an extension of the creek trail than anything else.
Right.
So this would be like rerouting the creek trail. So you're just creating more space for the playground and then allowing people to travel around it.
The question that raises in my mind is, I thought I heard 8-foot width, and if we're really going to be having people with the strollers and the dogs and so on, is that the right width? It sounds a little narrow to me if it was 8 feet, and this is a heavily, going to be a very heavily used segment, obviously.
Yeah, what's the width on the, typical width on the creek trail? Do you know, Matthew?
I think right now it's 12 feet.
12 feet? Mm-hmm. Well, it'll certainly be slow, it would certainly be slower, I suppose, if you only had 8 feet.
We've got some pinch points on that creek trail though, if, as you know, by being on it, that where it goes down considerably, narrower than 12 feet in some side. It's probably 12 feet if you count the shoulder on either side, because, particularly on the section that runs along the east side of the creek, there's almost like a running path alongside of it. And so when you add the shoulders up, I think you're closer to the 12, but I'm not sure that the AC section is consistently 12 feet throughout that trail.
Let me then qualify the answer. Where we had the opportunity to widen.
Yeah.
A 12.
Oh, I see.
That is true.
Right.
Okay. So the 8 feet might be okay here.
Well, you've got the fence though too, so it's constrained on one side by that.
Well, I'd certainly not want to have the fence so close to the trail that you're going to hit it with your bar. I don't want it. Hopefully the fence is not right at the edge of the trail.
And that's my question. I was wondering what type of fence is going to be planned to be put alongside the trail?
For that, yeah, so the fence is going proposed along the picnic table, separating the picnic area with the new pathway. It's going to be probably one of those 4-foot tall black vinyl chain link fence.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering if it was like a wooden fence that had some gaps, and that would also bring up an issue of people, being able to kind of slip through, through the fence into the path. But I think that fence it sounds like it will be good at deterring people from entering the path from that area.
Well, I think that was one of my big concerns, was having people being able to go through there, and staff is going to look at that.
Yeah, especially if the gaps are closed, right?
Yeah, I think we definitely have to look at the gaps, and then the last point was also good about how close to the edge of pavement do we really want that fence. We may have to pull it back by as much as we can, maybe up to a foot. Because you're right. You don't want that right on the edge.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yes, if there are no more comments, we have another project. This is an action-packed meeting. Let me unshare and then move them on to we don't have drawings, but we do have a map. This is for item number 5. It's our annual pavement maintenance project. The one street where we are planning to have bicycle related facilities is West Latimer Avenue, between Santa Mosaquina Road to the west, all the way to Darrell Drive to the east. So this stretch of West Latimer would be receiving some kind of pavement maintenance application, let's say. And what's unusual is right here, east of St. Paul Drive, the city limit line for San Jose and Campbell, it cuts to the middle, the center line of the street, so that The north side is in San Jose, the south side is in Campbell. And the plan is we've reached out to San Jose, and it sounds like they're willing to take on this portion of West Latimer Avenue for their paving program. At the same time, Campbell would take the lead on the portion east of this line here, from just west of St. Paul Drive, all the way east to Darrell Drive. Now the street is I believe it's 40 feet wide, which is just wide enough for 2 lanes of traffic, 1 in each direction, and parking on both sides. What we were thinking can be accomplished is to have a sharrows between Santa Mosquina Road all the way to Darrell. And we do have sharrows on Darrell north of Hamilton Avenue. And so what we were thinking is continuing or connecting whatever's done with the paving project on Latimer. Our city crews would install sharrows so that there would be a connection to the existing north of Hamilton Avenue. Any feedback thus far? Or any questions?
Yes, Matthew, this is Barton. So how does that street fit into our overall transportation plan as it relates to bicycles?
It is included in our general plan as a proposed bikeway. So it is part of the plan.
All right. Yeah, it makes sense then.
Yes. Overall, I'm going to pan over to the east. We're thinking eventually to have something similar on Llewellyn Avenue, and then continuing eastward on Latimer Avenue past Winchester, so you can connect to Winchester, and even possibly going to Central Avenue. We haven't really decided yet whether to go with bike route signs or sharrows or both. What's your feedback? Carmen, you're muted. I think I could read your lips.
Yeah, I think the more places we can put the sharrows, the more people and cars are going to get used to seeing them, and it's going to call the attention that the bikes are allowed here. So I really don't have a problem with putting on, especially because it's in the general plan for a bikeway. Signs are always okay too. If you have, if there's not too many of them, and not the resident, I take it that's a pretty residential street, right? But yeah, it's my thought. I'm good with them.
Yeah, I would support the sharrows rather than the bike route signs. I've never been clear that or what a bike route sign was good for, to be honest. Certainly not in terms of protecting me from anybody.
Yeah, and I also agree. I think sharrows would be good to put on the road there.
I mean, maybe obviously a route sign in addition to sharrows is reinforcing.
Any other comments, Matt or Bart?
Is this street getting an overlay or?
No, the only I believe the only street that's being worked on is lateral between Darrell and Santa Moschino Road.
That's correct. Actually the stretch of Latimer between Santa Moschino Road up to the city boundary, shared boundary, will be overlaid, I think. And then where the city's Campbell City's own project coming in, I believe is a rubber cape seal
Oh.
up to Darrell.
Hmm.
Yeah, I too like the striping, but if the city ever had a like a bike boulevard program, then I think signs would be appropriate just to kind of reinforce that you are in fact traveling on these boulevards. But until that happens, striping would be best.
Okay. I'm hearing overall showers are fine, and maybe that's the way to go. It is a long stretch. Yeah. Okay. Item number 6 is Dell Avenue. This is an interesting one. Let me unshare. And by the way, we got some preliminary feedback from the previous Bpac members, and thanks for providing your feedback. It was very helpful. Let me share this. Here it is. Now, do you see? Oops.
Yeah, we see the Is Dell Avenue now.
Okay. Oops. This is the portion of Dell Avenue. It's close to the southern edge of Campbell. There's Cross Street, Division Street, which is parallel to Knowles Drive in Los Gatos. So we're getting towards the southern end of Dell Avenue. There's an existing marked crosswalk that provides access to, there's an existing curb cut here that allows bicyclists to get onto an asphalt concrete path that leads to the Los Gatos Creek Trail further east. And there's a development just south of that path. The address is 1700 Dell Avenue. They're going to replace the existing office building with a new office building and parking garage. They are providing some improvements, including sidewalk, curb, and gutter along their frontage on the east side of Dell Avenue. We were looking at replacing, currently there are what we call channelizers that are glued onto the top of the pavement that pushes traffic away from the curb so that it's easier for traffic from the driveways to see oncoming traffic, because the alignment of the street, Dell Avenue, instead of being a smooth curve, it's an angle point. And it was very difficult for people to see traffic on Dell Avenue, which travels at pretty high speeds. So some of the feedback that we've been getting thus far was there was going to be a pushing out of the curb line, sort of like a bulb out, that would shorten the crossing distance in the crosswalk, and there would be a curb cut with your standard curb ramp with the detectable surface in the middle. And so we posed the question: how is this enough, or would having access to this AC path more directly from here, would that work? better for bicyclists. And the feedback we were getting is it's an awkward turn for someone who's riding southbound to kind of hook around and then come back here. And to have a low point in this area near the path, the existing path, would work out better. The people going northbound, they could use this, the curb ramp. I suppose they could also go here. I'm gonna flip-flop and show you some photos because that might clarify things too. But before I do, the other feedback we did get was that while the path to the creek trail is wide, closer to the creek trail, the closer you get to Dell Avenue, it necks down. And I'll show you with some photos. I'm going to close some of the files that I had open because I'm not seeing. And let's try again. Do you see a photo of that AC path with the?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is an older photo from Google Street View, and so it shows that in the background the path is wider, but as you get closer to Dell Avenue in the foreground, this dirt area kind of necks down the pavement area, so that it's really about 5 feet wide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
And kind of a steep, and it's a steep little ramp too. It's pretty abrupt.
okay.
Yep.
I'm going to experiment to see if I switched photos. Do you see a newer photo?
Nope.
Okay, let me
Up in the-
unshare and reshare.
Up in the corner.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is okay. Once I reshare, it'll be clearer. And hopefully it's the right photo here. Okay. You see a better resolution photo with the cabinet on the right side?
Yes.
Okay, what's happening is it sounded like there was a desire to widen this AC path because it's necked down, currently 5 feet wide. There's 4 feet between the concrete slab for this cabinet and the edge of the pavement. So in terms of available, let's say real estate, there's about 4 feet separating, and that might help as far as not getting too congested. And then I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to the drawing. Let's see, here it is. We were looking at what to put here in terms of curbing. And we were thinking of, rather than have a narrow opening where a bicyclist would have to aim to enter in, could we have instead rolled curb? You all know what rolled curb is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's you see it in some of the older parts of town, where instead of a vertical curve, it's 6 inches high, it's a sloping arc. Yeah, it's 2 feet wide. And it's kind of like a little. It's not like a valley gutter, but it's smaller in scale. But I'd like to get your feedback. How do you feel about if you had to ride here and cross over to get to this path, and there's an opening here? What's your experience, or how would you feel about going over rolled?
But don't you still have to come up 6 inches because your curb height, with your ramp, you're coming up 6 inches to the level of the sidewalk. So you still gotta somehow so right now that pathway ramps down to the lip of gutter, basically, right?
Right.
So if you could zoom in a little bit on that tighter, you got to make up 6 inch difference because you've got the handicap ramp for the crosswalk. Unless I'm not, without having like a plan view, like a elevation view, it's really hard to see what's going on here. Because basically they're putting in a curb and gutter. The sidewalk is going to be 6 inches above the street. The handicap ramp takes care of the 6 inches there, but where the path is, what exactly is going to go on there? It's just going to, a roll curb doesn't really get you any height, but this walkway's got to make it over to the pathway because people are going to want to walk there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we're looking at a design where it's kind of somehow transitioning so that the roll curb idea is it's going to be a little bit of your non-traditional roll curb, but at the same time, we don't want to have that entire area to be open, right? Because we don't want any cars to be driving on it. So we don't want it. So, right, exactly. So there's going to be some sort of transition after the ramp. We're going to start the roll curb, and we're going to need to know, we're going to have to work on it being a little bit depressed. And then at that point where the red line right there, then it transitions back because to the north of it, it becomes a traditional, your 6 inch curve. So there will definitely be some design work that we need to do on this, but we wanted to just ask from all of you what you thought about if it was some sort of a road curb situation. Would that be something that, from a bicyclist standpoint, is that something that you can, ride on to so that you can access the path?
Yeah, similar to in the past, we've asked about like riding over speed humps. In this case, it's the rolled curb.
I'm sure it'd be fine. You're traveling at a slow enough speed. It's going to be a non-issue for most people.
I thought
Well, I don't have a good picture of the road curb in my head, but so I use that path a lot under normal times when I'm doing a lot of club rides riding over to San Jose, and that's where I go through to either go south on the Creek Trail or to cross the Highway 17 overcrossing. And so I'm coming south on Dell and turning left there. And so, and especially if it's like people going to work time, there's traffic on that road. I'm not slowing down on the road too much to make that left turn. And in fact, it took me some practice to get good at actually being able to hit that thing well enough. It's a little dicey. Let's say I'm going 10 miles an hour at least, still when I make the turn, and I don't always stay on the pavement. I sometimes get myself over into the dirt a little bit. But you can't, you don't first of all, you're making the left turn and there's traffic coming up the street. You need to turn before they get there, or you're going to be standing in the middle of the street for a while. And it's not a particularly, okay, thanks. Not a particularly good place. You want to be standing there waiting to make your turn. So yeah, you're not going real slow. I mean, you don't really want to be going real slow. You want to keep up enough speed to make the turn okay and go, and then get up that ramp. Further uphill.
This is David. The roll curve kind of addresses a little bit what Barton had commented on, a week or more ago, in terms of that current ramp being very narrow. And I had exactly the same kind of concern as Barton just expressed, in terms of if you're coming south on Dell and you want to make that turn, you do have some speed. So, I was thinking about it in terms of the width of that opening and the narrowness of the trail. And, you're coming, and hitting that ramp and if somebody's coming on that trail and it's only a 5 foot maybe segment, you do have that potential for conflict. So having the roll curb that doesn't that provides access for the bike that's wider sounds good. I do have a little bit of a concern about the roll curb. I've got an old one in front of my house, so I'm very familiar with those that are relatively not steep, but then there's at least a couple of places I found recently with new ones, like the one that comes to mind because I basically just about fell trying to climb it. Is the one up at the parking lot at the very top of Mount Umunhum, and it's basically, it looks rolled, but it's kind of halfway between the old roll curb that I have in my neighborhood and a regular angled curb. And if you don't hit it exactly at the right angle, and if you're not used to it, your front wheel goes sideways as you try and roll up it, and it looks a little bit too steep to just hit it head on. So, I think there needs to be just something to be aware of, that, roll curves are not all the same, at least in my experience.
I'm gonna switch screens so I can show you what a roll curve looks like. Hang on.
And Matthew, if you could find us a place somewhere in town where there is one that's like the one that would be there, we could go try it out.
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. This is Victor. You see Victor Avenue? A car park here. Okay, so this is rolled curb. It's not vertical.
Sure.
And it's about 2 feet wide. But that's, if you were on Dell Avenue and you were trying to make a left turn, I don't know the specifics though. Like, I'm not sure if it would be this high immediately behind. This sidewalk is right up against the street, whereas what we're working with, well, I don't know. I really don't know. It hasn't been engineered yet.
Yeah, I think what we really need to do is let's have it looked at by the engineers a little further here. And before, a roll curb, it's going to depend on the height. It's got to come up as to how easily it will be able to be used. And to have a plan view like we have, that's dog well and good, but we really need to have an elevation to see how everything relates, because right now that pathway drops right down to the street surface. It's a very steep little ramp, very narrow at 5 feet. But there's also a pinch point on the plan where if people are walking up that handicap ramp, walking over to the trail, it narrows down to, was it 5'7" on the plan? I think if we could widen out the trail, that could get widened out also, because I see that as a bit of a pinch point too. So I guess what I'd like to see is the engineers do a little more work on this, get us an elevation view, get us an elevation of how the rolled curb could work. I don't want to rule it out. because I don't think it necessarily needs to have another ramp, but it might if the engineers feel that that's the proper way to go.
Okay, and just to let you know too, it's we're at the beginning of a process, let's say, because the area on near the AC path is not in front of the property being developed. So we're discussing this before approaching the developer.
Oh,
So it's not as if they're going to
but
say,
the handicap ramp, is that on their property?
no, but I believe that is included though as a
Yeah,
Okay.
that is included.
right. So just to let you know, I mean, this is very good feedback,
Mhm.
and this is helping us to know what to ask for. So tell you what, let's move on. Something a little bit different. Stop it sharing. It's Bart has been he's attended what's called the Mayor's Commissions Collaborative. It's one rep from each of the city's commissions or this Bpac met at least once recently, and I guess the idea is for these various commissions to communicate so that there'd be better planning of projects and sharing of information. Bart, could you, while I bring up some bullet points that I came up with, as far as it sounded like one of the pieces of homework was to develop some kind of work plan with goals and objectives from each committee or commission. Is that correct?
Well, I have to tell you this. We had this meeting. The mayor and another council member were there at the beginning, but then they left, and the city manager essentially ran the meeting. And it was a little bit nebulous what it is we're supposed to do. I think everybody was trying to figure it out. So the city council had asked for this, and the mayor said that they were looking for. I guess there were two things. They wanted the commissions to have a way to communicate with each other, and they also wanted to. They were asking for, let's say, more longer term thinking or something like that, or strategic. The word strategic was used. And so they wanted to hear from the commissions about it, other than just individual projects. So more like stuff that would go in the general plan, I guess. That was sort of my understanding. And more, and if there are any things, just what are issues? What are issues that that the city should be thinking about addressing over the next year? I got the impression we're thinking about sort of year-long view.
I'll tell you what, let me share my screen, and this is just a starting point, but and maybe this is just the an opportunity to take a look at what possibly could be goals, objectives, and a work plan for this Bpac. Goals is usually something very high level and general, and I borrowed this from the general plan update. It's still in process, but we have seen, let's say, an early draft of the text. And one of the things that is mentioned as a goal is to create a complete streets network that safely accommodates all users. I'm assuming that's pretty agreeable to most folks, because all users includes pedestrians and bicyclists. And as far as objectives, it's more actions. What actions are you going to take? Creating a connected multimodal transportation network. I would think of all the commissions, we'd be most interested in this. And providing feedback on selected transportation-related planning and design projects. And it's specifically worded in that our focus is transportation, this Bpac is. We do get involved with planning projects, including what was mentioned earlier in the downtown area. We looked at those, provided feedback for the Tipsy project, bicycle and pedestrian type projects, but also design projects like the ones we've reviewed this evening. So that could be seen as one of our objectives. But as far as specific items for, let's say, the upcoming year, every year, the Bpac is asked to provide advice on how the TDA grant funds are used. We get an annual allocation based on the state sales tax revenues, specifically for bicycle and pedestrian type projects. Next item is providing feedback on bicycle and pedestrian related issues related to the planning and design projects. I would anticipate, thirdly, that we would look at the general plan update, looking at the transportation element once it's, I guess, ready to be reviewed. And fourthly, there's this outstanding item. There's some funding available that's allocated to each city based on a formula of what they call 2016 Measure B Education and Encouragement Program. So it's not for construction projects so much as it's for, let's say, the non-construction type. Some ideas that we were floating around could be like a citywide bike map, maybe safe routes to school type maps for specific schools. But anyway, this is kind of a starter. On the other hand, I guess there's a little bit of urgency as well in terms of the timing of when this feedback needed to be given to the city council. Remind me, Bart, was it from you that they were aiming to have this feedback before the council developed their priorities? Is that right?
Well, I guess this was supposed to be input for that, which, and I got the idea that the February would be the time frame. That the city manager said the city council agenda is all jammed up for January, so February was when they were going to be looking at these kind of things.
So that's a kind of a tight time frame. Before.
Yeah, I think that your document that you have here sounds like it's on the right track of, at least as best I could understand what they were asking for. I was hoping the city manager was going to, send out something to the city departments, maybe spelling out a little better what they were looking for. But yes, they were working some kind of but he also said something about if you have specific proposals, it would be good if more than one commission was interested in this proposal or supported the proposal, that would give it more weight with the council. So in that case, the commissions should collaborate in some way for that. and you know, a couple of possibilities came up in the discussion between, let's say, us and the planning department. Let me just mention one as an example. The planning department was, when there are commercial developments, they have to negotiate with the developers about parking spaces, how many parking spaces they have to have, for example. And it's a very big, difficult thing, and the city rules are very long and complicated and detailed. And the default number of parking spaces is always higher than anybody wants to do, so it sort of gets negotiated down. That's my paraphrasing of what the planning commission guy told me. But there's no requirement about bicycle parking, typically.
We don't have anything
So
in the
this is-
general plan, Matthew, for bicycle parking on site for
What
development?
recent projects where that's been evaluated, I've seen for non-residential, it's a percentage of the vehicular parking supply,
Right,
like
okay.
5% or something like that. So
Is that already in our,
the reason I say that is for residential, you can you can store your bicycle in your garage. But for, yeah, that's, I think the reference is called CalGreen.
oh, so it's probably in the building code.
Yeah, because in the process, we were consulting our building division. So,
Yep.
yeah.
But Bart, I think one of the things that of the projects that might actually be a crossover project is this Campbell Park project, where we're looking at the bike trail, but I'm taking it the is it a park commission? They are Parks and Rec Commission. They're probably looking at other aspects of this Campbell Park project. And I guess maybe the question is, how much coordination do we need to do as the Bpac with them on the improvements that get done there?
Yes, and I had specifically raised that example, and because the person from the parks was there at the meeting, we discussed that briefly. And I guess, so there's two ways this could work, and probably we have a combination. So right now, typically, as we heard in the meeting tonight, I guess, you know, we're hearing from what the park people have in mind from the city staff telling us what they're working on. And the city staff is essentially the conduit of that joining of the views of our bicycle and pedestrian people and the park department people. Matthew, you can tell me if that's making sense to you or not. The question would be if this collaborative, whatever this council wants us to do, this collaborative is to provide some collaboration between the commissions. Maybe, you know, when the people are talking about the plan for this thing, we would have found about it ahead of time, and maybe even one of us gone to their meeting and heard what they were talking about and brought back that information, or vice versa. That could be something that this
So I tell you what,
collaborative commission might actually be good.
before I allow Todd to chime in, I'm thinking in some ways how we're getting this, let's say, cross coordination. It seems like staff is synthesizing the input from the various commissions or committees, and in that way, all commissions are being heard. But I don't know, Todd, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I do, and I think everything that's been said in about the last 5 to 10 minutes is exactly right. So I think a project like this Campbell Park pathway is a great example of something that we'd probably want to get, you know, earlier input from the Bpac, because we had much earlier input and you know, several rounds of iteration with the Parks and Rec Commission. In fact, so much so that, probably a couple of years ago now, we actually had a Parks and Rec subcommittee that looked at some preliminary designs that we were putting together before we brought it to the full commission. And if we take a look at this and what may be our new lens, it might have made sense to have a Bpac committee member on that subcommittee so that you could provide early input as the design is being put together rather than reacting to it after it's essentially complete. And then Matthew's also right in that, we as staff have been trying to do that, where we get the input from one commission and we get the input from another committee, and then we try to synthesize that and see what is the best solution. But in reality, I think what the mayor and the council are looking for is to have our advisory bodies work together and coordinate when possible. And to that end, I don't think that the Campbell Park pathway is that any longer. But I do think on future projects, there's no doubt that we're going to be adding some other projects into our, or at least trying to add projects into our capital program that might be related to both parks, recreation, and bike and ped access. And so it might make sense to have a joint meeting at some point, or to invite the members of one committee to another commission, or vice versa. But I think that's what they're really looking to do, is have things, have that coordination really at the earliest phase possible. And so I think that, we kind of do have a proposed item on here that we would provide, that you would provide feedback on you would continue to provide feedback on bike and pedestrian related issues, but that might also be in conjunction with other advisory bodies. So I think that's what they're trying to get to. That's kind of everything that I've heard, at least up to this point. And so what they're asking for, what the mayor is asking for is really kind of a initial work plan from each advisory body that the council can then consider when they have their priority setting session, which now even looks like it won't be February. It might be the first Friday or so in March. But that's really the goal, is to get input from all the advisory bodies as they consider putting together what their priorities will be for the upcoming fiscal year. Which in turn, for those of you who have worked for other municipalities, will know that we in turn might then also drive our budget priorities in terms of what we would propose in the capital program or in our operating budgets.
6:45.
Tell you what,
Yeah, 6:45.
maybe
Okay, so look, this is Barton. Let me mention just one more example. On your document there, Matthew, you have this about the Measure B education. So this sounds like it might be a good chance for collaboration between us and at least the youth commission. There's a youth commission. They have youth activities and stuff. And of course, if we were doing some kind of bicycle safety education or something along those lines, it might well be good to talk to them about what their ideas might be before we propose something, right?
Okay, what we can do is propose this. How we implement it can be worked out in step with what the mayor is looking for in terms of collaboration.
Maybe under the objectives, we just add something about being collaborative with other commissions and committees on related projects. Otherwise, I think this is a great work plan to start with. I think that'll, if we add something like that, it kind of goes right to the point as to the
Bpac is on the ball.
that we don't work all by ourselves in a little bubble, that we're considering everybody else.
All right, I think if Matthew makes that change, I think if everybody is largely in agreement, I think we have something that we can work with and get to council. And that doesn't mean that you wouldn't also have the opportunity, you know, if council has feedback or ask questions, we could certainly revisit this at the March or even May meeting as we, you know, put together our work plan for the upcoming year. So I think this is a great start.
Yeah, looks good to me.
I think it'd be worth revisiting a little bit. I mean, what jumped out at me immediately was the first objective just sounds like a goal. I wish we had the ability to create a multimodal network, but you know, that sounds almost the same as complete streets network that safely accommodates all users. So just kind of an editorial comment, I guess, there. And you know, as far as what's in the work plan, you know, is that all? And are those, you know, presumably once this is done, it's going to be something that's going to be referred to for quite some time. So I'd like I think
Well,
it's worth putting a little more thought into than we're able to do today, certainly.
Or doesn't it get updated yearly, usually a work plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree, David, that some of these bullets, you should have seen the first draft. As far as being a little bit redundant or repeating what is already stated. So I tell you what, I'll save this, and then if there's anything that's not too, well, we only have a month or so anyway. If there's anything substantial to bring back to the Bpac, we can always bring it back.
Has this been sent out to the Bpac members yet, Matthew?
No,
because what we might want to do is, you know, is maybe sometime next week, you know, we could send you this, and then if you have any other comments or feedback, you know, we can certainly take it. I mean, it would not have the benefit of the group discussion, obviously, but if there's any glaring omissions there, you know, feel free to send your comments back in, and we could still edit this all, you know, for any time over the next few weeks, I'm sure.
Sure. Yes.
So in addition to the Measure B things and the Transportation Development Act, there are we also discussed sometimes other grants that we can apply for. Is that included here? Advise on those?
Maybe just expand the first one to TDA and other grants as available.
That's a good comment.
This is first draft theater here. Let's see. Advise on grant opportunities exist. How about, for example?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry to hold you guys so late, but we've got one more substantial item is the VTA Bpac update from Carmen. And also, Carmen, I do have some screens to share as you're talking about, if you want to expand on the things dealing with Caltrans.
Sure. So we've had the VTA Bpac is at a meeting every month for the past couple of months. And a couple of items that came up this time were that Caltrans District 4 has prepared a pedestrian plan that's out for review right now. And so I sent Matthew some website addresses, and maybe if you just want to follow up with an email tomorrow with these website addresses, if anybody's interested in going and looking at them and making comments, it explains at the website how to do so. But they also have a bike highway study that District 4 did, looking at potential bike highway well, where bicycles may be able to be put. Again, that's a study that you can take a look at, and if you feel like making comments, you can make comments. The other thing that came up was the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition gave the results of a survey of Silicon Valley on cycling travel behavior and travel attitudes. And it's a study that you can kind of go look at and see what they found. And just keep in mind as you look at it that there were quite a few people that were in the study that were really not avid bicyclists. So, I mean, it's information as to perceptions of what's going on out there and how people feel about cycling and that sort of thing. And again, there's a website that you can go look at the results for that. I don't know if there was a place to make comments, but it was just kind of interesting for them to go over what they found. And that's kind of it.
Okay, I'll share the links. What I will do is share my screen, and hopefully as I flip from tab to tab, you'll see the same screens that I do. Just for information.
Didn't we already get the links, or are there additional links?
Did you send them out, Matthew, the links?
They were part of the invitation, the meeting invitation.
Oh, okay.
At the very bottom, there's mention of
Okay.
Caltrans District 4. Do you see Caltrans website?
Yes.
Okay, the web address catplan.org. It's the Caltrans active transportation plan for District 4. I guess each Caltrans district has its own website, but
Okay, yeah, your email did have it in it. So that, or the one with that was sent last Thursday.
right. And if you click on this link, there you get a PDF of a draft study.
Right, yeah.
Now, if I flip on this tab, do you see a different? Great. Okay, so these are the other links that I can share.
Yeah.
Is
This is the pedestrian plan. Mm-hmm.
And then the next one, this website kind of carries you through their story of what the existing conditions are, then identifying I'll just click here, identifying needs, exploring the data, and then next steps, kind of walking you through where they are in the process. I could take some notes from this morning. It looks like they're looking for feedback regarding what are they missing that maybe you want to share with Caltrans, or what's unclear about their current plan. And we continue on. There's a page for taking surveys. Let me just click on this, see what happens. Okay, well, it walks you through a survey.
Yeah.
And there's also this concern map where you could zoom in, and I guess well, it says show instructions. I think you click, and then at the location where you have a concern, then you can start interacting with the survey to tell Caltrans what issues you have. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Carmen, for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Item 9, around the table. Comments or discussion? This has been an exciting meeting, by the way. So yeah, it's a good introduction to Matt and Mark. Our next meeting, we usually meet the third Thursday of every odd numbered month. So it's every other month. So our next meeting is scheduled for March 18th. And we'll contact you via email. So it'll be on your calendar. And we usually meet at 5 o'clock. But that's all we had on our agenda. So thank you for attending. Thanks for staying so late.
Thanks, everyone. I would
Thank
say to our two new committee members, it doesn't always go this late. So we generally finish up in what, about an hour or so. So
We just had a lot to talk
we had a
about.
lot to talk about today. So I appreciate everyone hanging in there.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Welcome,
Happy-
Matt, Mark.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Glad
thanks.
to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, have a good evening, everybody.
Okay, all right,
All right,
bye.
Very
bye.
good.
Everyone.
Bye.